Okay, if you've ever been involved in hiring, maybe you're the manager, trying desperately to fill that crucial role. Or maybe you're the candidate, just hoping to make a good impression. The whole system often feels, well, broken.
Hmm.
It needs to be fast, accurate, and fair. Consistently fair for everyone. But getting all three right at the same time, that feels almost impossible sometimes.
It's a huge challenge, yeah. Absolutely. And that's exactly why the sources we're looking at today are so interesting. They show that AI isn't just filtering resumes anymore. It's actually getting right into the core of the interview itself. We're talking about AI generating the actual questions, the custom questions that can really make or break a hiring decision.
Right.
So today we're doing a deep dive into these AI copilots, how they're built, how they create these tailored role-specific questions,
Oh,
how
yeah.
they plug into the existing HR workflows. And this is the kicker, the really impressive metrics about their impact.
Yeah, this isn't just theory. This is about what's happening now, what companies are actually measuring in terms of performance. It feels like a new standard for professional recruiting is emerging. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start at the beginning. The mechanics. If I give an AI a really dense job description, 5 pages, full of jargon,
Yeah.
how does it turn that into a sharp, effective interview question, like a scenario-based one?
Right. It boils down to some pretty sophisticated tech analysis. We're looking at systems using machine learning ML and also high-level natural language processing, NLP. And crucially, these tools aren't just doing keyword counts. They're trained to grasp the weighting, the relative importance, and the context of everything in that job description.
So it's not just seeing must-know Python. It's understanding that for this particular role, Python isn't just nice to have. It's maybe the absolute top requirement, maybe even more critical than, say, communication skills for this specific job.
Precisely. Yeah, exactly that. The NLP figures out those key performance indicators, the critical requirements, and basically assigns them a value or weight. And that analysis, think of it like a weighted blueprint of the perfect candidate that becomes the input for the next step,
Yeah.
which is the generative AI part.
Gotcha. And this is where things like the advanced GPT frameworks come in,
Mhm.
because our sources really stress that these AI tools are way beyond just static question banks. They're not just grabbing question number 45 labeled marketing manager.
Exactly right. No static lists here. What's really powerful is the synthesis. The generative AI creates novel questions, completely new ones. They're based specifically on those high priority requirements the NLP identified. So you move past the generic stuff like, what are your strengths?
Yeah.
And you get into questions based on real world scenarios. Situations designed to test the exact skills and competencies that the job description highlighted.
Can you give an example? Like, what's the difference? AI tailored versus generic?
Sure. Okay, so a generic interview for a product manager might ask something like, how do you handle scope creep? Pretty standard. Now, an AI-generated question based on a job description focused on, say, agile scaling and tight deadlines might be much more specific. It might be something like, okay, imagine this. A key customer feature promised for the Q3 release is suddenly blocked. Big technical debt issue. Engineering flags it just 48 hours before launch. Your sales team is absolutely counting on this feature. Walk me through the exact 3 steps you take right then to manage stakeholders, resolve that conflict between sales and engineering, and mitigate the fallout. And how do you track the lessons learned afterwards?
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, it's incredibly specific. It hits technical understanding, how you react under pressure, managing different teams, all tied directly to the specific needs outlined for that PM role. And the sources mentioned this integrates pretty smoothly, like into the virtual interview tools people already use.
Yes, that's a key piece. The seamless integration with platforms like Microsoft Teams or Zoom, the usual suspects, it just makes the whole experience better, smoother, and it ensures this kind of high quality, tailored assessment is accessible. Doesn't matter where the candidate is located globally. It makes the process feel advanced, not cumbersome.
Okay, that makes sense. Which brings us right to the benefits, the metrics. Because companies don't just adopt new tech because it sounds cool, right?
Yeah.
They need measurable results. We know how it works now, but the big question for any leader is, what are the actual tangible benefits? What does the data show?
Well, the first one, and honestly, it's pretty stunning, is the huge jump in just assessment quality, accuracy. The research we looked at points to this. Because the questions are so precisely targeted to what really matters for the job, these AI copilots improve evaluation accuracy by, get this, as much as 40%.
40%. Wow. Okay, hold on. A 40% improvement in accuracy.
Yeah.
For someone listening who maybe isn't deep in HR data day to day, what does that practically mean for a company? What's the bottom line impact?
It means more confidence and significant cost savings. plain and simple. Higher accuracy means you drastically cut down on mishires. Those candidates who seem perfect on paper, maybe even interview well with generic questions, but then 6 months later it's clear they aren't the right fit, those mishires cost a fortune. Not just salary, but lost training time, onboarding resources, team disruption, lost productivity. It adds up fast. So that 40% improvement, it translates directly into better team performance down the line, higher retention rates, and HR spending its time much more effectively, focusing only on candidates truly matched to what success looks like in that specific role.
Right. Better hires, less wasted money. That makes sense. And while that confidence is huge, I imagine the immediate win for the actual recruiting team is efficiency. Automating this kind of custom question writing must save a ton of time.
Oh, absolutely. A massive time saver. One study we saw detailed that automating this part, generating the questions, reduces the recruiter's prep time by around 50%.
50%. That's half the prep time back.
Exactly. Just think about the hours recruiters usually spend digging into new roles, trying to synthesize requirements from different hiring managers who maybe don't even agree, then drafting specific scenario-based questions, making sure they aren't repetitive, especially for panel interviews. That's a huge administrative burden. This lifts a lot of that.
So the recruiter isn't stuck trying to invent the perfect behavioral question for the 5th time that week. Okay. They can actually focus on, well, higher value stuff.
Precisely. They can pivot, spend more time on strategic tasks like engaging more deeply with the candidates, really analyzing the answers to these smarter questions the AI generates, and using their human judgment where it matters most in the final decision making. The AI handles the grunt work of question prep, the recruiter focuses on strategy and human insight.
And then there's the consistency angle, which is so important for making hiring fair and, frankly, legally defensible. If you've got, say, 5 different managers interviewing for the same role, maybe across different offices or time zones, keeping things standardized is really tough.
It often breaks down, but the AI framework inherently provides that standardization. Every single candidate gets the same set of relevant, carefully weighted, scenario-based questions tailored to that role. This promotes consistency in the process itself, which is absolutely fundamental for fairness and equality. It helps ensure the evaluation stays focused squarely on the job requirements, not on, the different pet topics or biases of individual interviewers.
That makes sense. And you mentioned earlier the integration with virtual tools. Our sources noted that the experience for the candidate can actually be better too, more dynamic.
Yes, especially now with so much remote hiring. Keeping that human connection, that engagement, is a real challenge through a screen. These tools often have interactive features built in, things like real-time collaborative note-taking, maybe integration with a coding environment for tech roles, or even quick feedback prompts. It helps create a more engaging interview flow. The candidate feels more respected, more challenged in a good way, not just like they're ticking boxes on a checklist.
Okay, so we've got the mechanics down, the big gains in accuracy, efficiency, consistency, even candidate experience. But is this still niche? Like just cutting-edge tech firms in Silicon Valley using this?
No, absolutely not. Not anymore. This tech is already having a major impact, really reshaping the labor market pretty broadly.
Yeah, the adoption numbers in the source material really drive that home. The research indicated that 65% of staffing agencies are already using AI copilots in their hiring processes. When the agencies, the gatekeepers for so many jobs, are adopting it at that scale, it's hit the mainstream. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Right. That high adoption rate, it points to something bigger, a fundamental shift. Hiring is moving pretty rapidly away from being mainly driven by, let's say, generalized experience or gut feeling. And it's moving towards becoming a much more dynamic, data-driven system. Companies increasingly want hiring processes that reflect actual, measurable performance needs and prioritize predictive accuracy. They want to know the hire will work out.
And the future outlook described in the sources. It suggests the ultimate goal isn't just generating that initial set of questions. It's about the interview process itself becoming adaptive, changing during the interview. That sounds like it needs much deeper integration with company data, right? Specifically with things like candidate tracking systems.
Exactly. That's the next frontier. Candidate tracking systems, CTS, that's the software managing all the candidate info from application onwards. So right now, the AI mostly looks at the job description to make questions. The next step is for the AI to also pull data from the CTS. Maybe it sees how this candidate performed in earlier screening rounds. Or perhaps it looks at anonymized, aggregated data about what predicted success for previous hires in similar roles.
Whoa. So the system is learning as it goes,
Hmm.
making the conversation potentially much more fluid and responsive.
Precisely. Imagine the candidate answers a question. The AI analyzes that response against those weighted criteria we talked about. Let's say the candidate nails the technical part. The AI could then automatically pivot. Maybe it reduces the number of remaining technical questions and instead spends more interview time probing areas flagged as potential weaknesses based on the job profile, maybe conflict resolution or team collaboration skills. It becomes this iterative optimizing process. The promise is interviews that aren't just efficient and tailored, but significantly more predictive of whether that candidate will actually succeed long term in that specific company culture and role. It's constantly fine-tuning the conversation to maximize the chance of finding that perfect fit.
Okay, so wrapping this up, our deep dive clearly shows AI is making hiring faster, definitely more consistent, and tailoring that interview experience right down to the specific granular needs of the job.
It really is a revolution in assessment tech, yeah.
So what does this all mean?
Well, it leads to a fascinating question, doesn't it? If the end goal here with these super advanced AI interview systems is this continuous, real-time adjustment, all designed to maximize predicting success in one specific organization, how does that change the balance? The balance between assessing the skills a candidate already has, stuff they can demonstrate right now, versus assessing their potential, their underlying ability to adapt, to learn new things, to grow into the role and thrive in a future environment we can't even fully predict yet. What might this perfectly tailored, highly predictive interview actually risk missing when it comes to spotting raw human potential and adaptability?